What's up? I'm Elizabeth and today I'm going to show you how to make a bag. I'm Elizabeth and today I'm going to be showing you how to crochet a bag out of satin ribbon. A little backstory for this, I feel like these bags that are made out of t-shirt ribbon, like these super cool chunky bags, are really popular right now. They're all over my Instagram, they're all over my TikTok. I love these. Something I think that's even cooler is when the t-shirt yarn is a metallic silver or gold. I've also just seen a bunch of crocheted bags that are made out of unconventional like yarn substitutes. I don't know exactly what it's called, but it's like the cord you use for like climbing. Obviously macrame is really common, or like some kind of rope. As I mentioned, t-shirt yarn. And what I'm going to be showing you today is with ribbon. There's so much good inspiration out there if you're interested in making a bag out of ribbon. There's one creator who puts these little bows all over the bag. It's so cute. I'm going to link her account in the description. So I made kind of a prototype of this bag a few weeks ago, and this is the size that I'm going to be showing you how to make today. I'll show you what it looks like here kind of on, but I wanted it to be super slouchy, super big, can fit a ton of stuff in here, and I think the fact that it's big just like draws your eye to it more. It's like more of a statement. But if you're like, I'm never gonna wear a bag that's that big, the good thing about this tutorial is it's super customizable to whatever size you want, whatever strap length you want. I'm gonna explain how it's constructed so you can make like the base of the bag bigger or smaller. You can make the depth of the bag bigger or smaller, and you can make the strap short or long, or you could even do 2 straps if you wanted, or you could just follow along and do exactly what I'm doing. Either way, you will need 2-inch double-faced satin ribbon. If you have a ribbon that's thinner, I would just use a smaller hook size, but I wanted the bag to look really chunky, so I'm using 2-inch ribbon. And double-faced basically means it's shiny on both sides. There's some ribbon where one side is more matte and one side is more shiny. Check the description if you want to get the same ribbon I got. Another thing you're looking for when you're looking at ribbon is how many yards it is. For this bag, I used pretty close to 100 yards. Commonly, if you go to a craft store or somewhere to buy ribbon, it's gonna come in a spool that's like maybe 15-20 yards at most. Look for like the longest amount of yards you can find, because the less times we have to like bring in a whole new roll of ribbon, the better, because then there's less connections, less ends to weave in, and less chance that it's going to unravel. So for this tutorial, I got this brown color of ribbon. They're 50 yards each. I have 3 of them just in case because I didn't want to run out for filming purposes. The only other thing I'm using is a crochet hook. I honestly think if you had a hook from anywhere from like 11 millimeters to even 15 millimeters, don't go out and buy a new one. If it's anywhere in that range, it'll work perfectly fine. It's not a huge deal if your hook size is a little off. I just wouldn't go any smaller than 11 millimeters. And last thing before we get into it is a tip with the ribbon. I used to do ballet and we had to sew ribbons onto our point shoes. And when you cut the ribbon, it would start to fray and just like completely unravel. This ribbon I got is similar. It might vary for you, but when I cut it, it started to fray. So all you have to do is take a lighter. Be really careful. If you're younger, have an adult do this or something, but you basically take the ribbon and you just like quickly go over it back and forth like 1 or 2 times, and it will melt the edges so that it doesn't fray or come undone. This pattern would also work really well with t-shirt yarn if you don't want to go out and buy some satin ribbon. You just might want to adjust the amount of rows you do if it's not building up as quickly as this ribbon does. Now I'm going to show you how to start the bag. So I'm going to start by creating a magic circle. I'm taking the working yarn on top of my hand, and the tail should be at the bottom of my hand. And with the tail hanging here, I'm going to take the top yarn. Sorry if I keep saying yarn, you know what I mean. Ribbon, yarn, same thing. I'm taking the ribbon, wrapping it down around my fingers and towards my thumb. This ribbon is very thick, so it's kind of hard to tell, but if I scrunch it up, you'll see that there is an X here. Taking your hook, you're gonna go underneath your pointer finger and go over and grab the yarn that's by your thumb and pull it through. Then I'm kind of pinching that knot here in my fingers and pulling that tail so that it closes the circle a little bit, and I'm gonna chain 1. So with this circle, I'm gonna yarn over and pull 1 loop through. So I have 1 chain, my magic circle, my tail, and my working yarn. Now I'm gonna continue and make 6 single crochets all the way around this loop, marking the first stitch of my row with a stitch marker. So not counting the chain, this would be our first single crochet. I'm gonna take a stitch marker. If you don't have a stitch marker, you could use a paper clip or an earring or something. And I'm just gonna mark that first single crochet. Now I'm gonna continue for 5 more, totaling in 6. I had to turn the air off because it was so loud and my hands are sweating and it's like not letting the ribbon slide through my hands. I don't recommend doing this when you have sweaty hands because it's kind of difficult. I'm on my last single crochet. This is my 6th one. And then I'm gonna take that tail from my magic circle and just pull it super tight and it will close that center right there. So we don't have a big hole at the bottom of our bag. Sometimes when you're working in rounds like this, you'll find the first stitch, slip stitch to it, chain 1, and then continue. I am not going to be doing that for this pattern. I'm gonna be working in continuous loops, not chaining, not slip stitching, just only single crochets. But I'm marking my first stitch so that I know where the rows start and end. So starting my 2nd row, I'm gonna take my stitch marker out, and into every stitch, I'm gonna work 2 single crochets. So we're increasing in every single stitch. And at the end of the row, you should have 12 single crochets. I finished my first stitch. I'm going to mark that with my stitch marker. Before I move on, I counted and just made sure that I had 12 stitches. And now for the next row, we're going to increase every other stitch. So my first stitch will have 1 single crochet, the next will have 2, the next will have 1, the next will have 2, and so on. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. So I'm going to do 1 single crochet into this first stitch. Get this out of the way. And mark it with the stitch marker again. In my next stitch, I'm going to increase and do 2 single crochets. Next stitch is just 1. Next stitch is 2, and so on. And you should be finishing off your row with 2 single crochets into that last stitch. In this row, you should have a total of 18 stitches. So this is my 4th row. In that first stitch, I'm just going to do 1 single crochet, and I'm going to mark it with my stitch marker. And then I'm going to increase in my 2nd stitch. From here on out, I'm going to be increasing every 2 stitches. So I'll do single crochet, increase, single crochet, increase. Continuing that across the whole row. I'm finishing this row with 1 single crochet into that last stitch, and your circle should total 24 stitches all the way around. For the next row, the pattern is going to be increasing every 3 stitches. So we increased every other, every 2, now we're doing every 3. This row I'm going to start that pattern right away, doing 3 single crochets and then increasing. Okay, I finished my 5 rows and it should look like this. I have a total of 30 stitches all the way around my circle. And the next thing I'm going to do is continue working in the round, but I'm not going to increase at all. So I'm going to do 30 stitches, 30 stitches, 30 stitches, making sure that I'm marking my first stitch every time so that I know where to start and stop. I will come back once I finish my rows and let you know how many I did in total. I finished the main part of the bag, everything but the strap. I ended up doing 8 rows in addition to the 6 rows for the circle base part. In total, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 rows. 6 plus 8 equals 14. I don't think I have enough ribbon to finish the strap, and I want it to all be one piece just so that it's a little stronger. If you don't have enough ribbon, you can tie off your ribbon after slip stitching and join a new spool or whatever. If you do have enough ribbon, just slip stitch it and keep the ribbon working. Before I move on to the strap, I had to add a new spool like halfway through the body of the bag. As you can see here, there's these loose tails. I am going to be weaving these ends in, but the material is pretty slippery against each other. So I'm just going to tie them in a really tight knot and then weave them in just so it's like a little more secure. And you have to pull it super tight. I connected my new spool of ribbon. The next thing we're going to do is chain the length of our strap. And again, depending on the size of the bag you made, if you made it exactly like mine and you want to wear it crossbody, it can be a longer strap. If you made a smaller bag, you might want to do a shorter strap or 2 straps. You can kind of figure out how long to make it as you chain to like try it on like this. I folded the bag in half here, and you just want to place it like where you would want it to sit on your body. I kind of like when the top of the bag is like right at the highest part of my waist. I feel like it's easy to grab into. Any higher, it looks funky and you can't reach in. Any lower, and it's just like too slouchy for my liking. But finding my waist, I kind of like this length here. Also keep in mind, if you have stuff in it, it's going to be like weighed down a little more. So kind of give it a pull and like see really where it's going to sit. But I think I'm going to aim for something like this. It's kind of awkward because I'm standing up, but you're just going to literally chain until you're at the length that you decide that you like. And don't make this too tight because it'll be really hard to work your stitches into. You want it to be like comfortably loose. This is a total of 31 chains roughly, but take that with a grain of salt because it depends how loose or tight you did the chains. It depends on your hook size, it depends on your torso size, your height. Just make sure you're comfortable with how it's fitting and adjust it if needed. Now that we have our length, I'm going to show you how to connect it to the other side and then go back and forth a few times to make the strap thicker, and then we'll be done. So the strap's connected here, we need to connect it here. I'm just going to count my stitches to make sure that I'm connecting it right in the middle on this side and that it's not lopsided. And then you're going to insert your hook into that stitch that you counted, get a loop through there and pull it through to slip stitch the strap. I'm going to take my hook, and in the stitch above the stitch I just worked into, I'm going to insert my hook and also slip stitch it through there. This is essentially like chaining before starting a new row because I want the strap to be connected on like a wider base instead of just connecting it to the same stitch. I want to even out the pressure a little bit, so we slip stitched it to the first stitch and the stitch above it, and now I'm just going to work single crochets all the way back across my chain, making sure that it's not twisting. So I'm going to be working all the way across. Once you work into that very last stitch, you should have somewhat of a thick strap, similar to how we did on the other side. Right now it's just hanging on by this one stitch, like the one chain, so I want to connect it at another point. So down here I'm going to stick my hook through and I'm going to slip stitch that so that now it's connected at 2 points and it's a little more sturdy. Our chain is here. and we stitched on this side. The last thing we have to do is do a row of single crochets on the other side of our chain, closing it off over here. So right now my ribbon is attached on this side and I need to get it over here. Technically my bag is right side out currently, so I don't want to work on the top of here to get over here. You're going to see a bunch of like weird stitching. So actually I'm going to flip my bag the other way. So that my wrong side is up. I'm going to take the loop of that slip stitch I just made and I'm going to loosen it, and I'm going to bring it all the way over to the stitch on the other side where I'm going to connect it, and I'm going to slip stitch there. The key is keeping this really loose. Now if I flip my bag back to the right side, I have my chain on the side that I have not worked on at the top, and my yarn is kind of in the right place. To recap that, I loosened the loop on my slip stitch, pulled it to the other side of my chain, and I slip stitched it into the stitch next to it. So now it's connected at 3 points into these 3 stitches. I'm going to continue all the way up across my chain to finish off my strap. Now that we're at the end of the strap, I want to make sure I connect it to the stitch next to my last connection. So I'm going to insert it into that stitch, pull a loop through, and pull it through to slip stitch. And I think it looks pretty seamless when the thickness of the strap is connected all the way across on the bag. I'm going to cut and tie off my ribbon. I love it. I like it better than this one. See how like this is more half circle shaped and this one's like a little longer and deeper? I like that. Also the color is gorgeous. In some light it's like red, orange, brown, copper. This only took me a few hours, so it's definitely a fun project if you want instant gratification. Plus, it's extremely functional and very cute. It looks weird if I do this. Let me put it this way. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. And feel free to leave any comments if you have video ideas or anything you want to see. Follow me on TikTok if you want to see more crochet content. And I will see you very soon.